Donkey Kong is an arcade game that was released by Nintendo in 1981, where you would play as Mario for the very first time. This game broke hundreds of records, and with it was the very first game where you could jump. And in that, the jump height and jump distance were fixed values. Yet as games developed and became much more complicated, so did calculating the maximum jump distance, as those types of momenta were needed to take into an account. So I was kind of curious to see how far you could jump in the latest version, that being 1.17, of one of the most popular games this year, solely using methods and items that are obtainable in survival mode. Uber is a YouTuber with around 20,000 subscribers. It's certainly one of the more interesting channels, having solid black thumbnails, solid black profile picture, and a seemingly random mix of characters for titles of videos. Even stranger is their YouTube banner, a QR code that when opened in a text file reads, "Move along." One of their videos is called Gregor 2, and in which they completed what may have been the very first 5-block jump in Minecraft. This was only possible by building up something called elevation momentum throughout a total of 16 jumps with a perfect number of stacked snow blocks stacked upon one another. Now, elevation momentum is quite simply gaining momentum each time you elevate to a higher block each jump, meaning that you don't necessarily jump faster, but jump higher. This is a great example of where elevation momentum is needed. If you were to attempt this jump without any momentum, it is completely impossible, whereas if you were to use elevation momentum, it is much easier. I spent quite a lot of time trying to meticulously extend Uber's map from 16 jumps to 40 or 50 jumps, making sure that the gap between each jump and the number of layers of snow was all the same. Yet if you've studied calculus or limiting values, then you would know that elevation momentum gain, and the momentum gain as a whole, was ultimately diminished, where the more jumps completed no longer increases the momentum, but instead somewhat reduced the distance of that final jump. This pretty much concludes that the maximum elevation momentum that a player can obtain in survival mode must lie between 15 jumps and 50 jumps, which is a huge gap that I cannot be bothered to narrow down today. There's quite a few blocks that can alter the velocity of a player, such as ice. When sprint jumping on ice, you travel 15% faster than on any other random ordinary block. 25% faster when sprint jumping on blue ice. This is mainly from an instant burst of momenta when you jump. Finally, head hitters. It's a fairly straightforward method to quickly get lots of momentum. In short, the player jumps to ram their head against the ceiling of a 2-block gap. This type of momentum is simply called head-hitting momentum. There are much larger bursts of this type of momenta when either the ceiling is lowered or when the player's jump height is reduced. There's a variety of blocks that can do this. That can lower the player's maximum jump distance. Since the player is 1.8 blocks tall, or 5'7", trapdoors are most commonly used, as they occupy 3/16 of a block. When head hitters with trapdoors are combined with blue ice, incredible speeds can be reached. And solely using this method, it's possible, in survival mode, to jump a 9-block gap. The only other thing I could think of that might improve this jump distance was using enchanted equipment. In total, there's about 110 possible obtainable enchantments in survival, one of which is soul speed. The player's speed can be increased by 61.5% using soul speed 3. Only when either walking or running on soul sand or soul soil. The only issue with using this is that it doesn't increase the speed when jumping from soul sand or soul soil. Unlike using ice, there's no instant burst of momenta when using soul sand. So when you make the jump, it's the same as if you were jumping from any other random ordinary block. And because of this, there's no head-hitting momentum that's built up at all, which kind of defeats the purpose of having head hitters in the first place. So just simply sticking with blue ice is by far the best option. There are about 120 obtainable potions in 1.17 survival, of which is a potion of swiftness 2, leaping 2, and a potion of slow falling. Potions of swiftness can directly increase the player's speed by 1.2 multiplied by the potency. In this case, it has a potency of 2, which means you can travel 40% faster. Because of this, the momenta of the player doesn't change, and so causes the player's horizontal jump distance to increase accordingly. Potions of Leaping 1 can increase the player's jump height from 1.25 blocks to 1.8125 blocks. When the potion has a potency of 2, it can increase the player's jump height to 2.5 blocks. And finally, potions of slow falling. They can only have a potency of 1, and while sprint jumping solely using this potion can cross a gap of 5 blocks. All of these potions would only be efficient if they maintain the player's momenta, which they do. If you were to combine the use of potions, blue ice, head hitters and trapdoors, all of which are obtainable in survival mode, you can reach the maximum theoretical jump distance from just one jump, which is an incredible 18 block jump. So is that it? An 18 block jump? I can't really think of anything else that could further improve the max jump distance. I was thinking of using redstone, maybe trying to boost the momentum and launch the player even further into the air, but that kind of eliminates the necessity of using potions, and it's much more inefficient. So unless there's a way to launch the player without losing too much momentum, then potentially the jump distance is further. As far as I'm aware, that is impossible. So I'm 100% sure that a 19 block jump is impossible, solely using methods and materials that are obtainable in 1.17 survival. If you think I'm wrong, prove it, let me know in the comments. I promise I will try to respond to everyone.